This is the lecture for Autonomous Cars in Favor of a Mandatory Ethics Setting by Jan Gogol and Julian Muller. So the first point is just the reading quiz does not have anything about the first 7 pages. That's not because you should ignore them or anything. It's because they're sort of setting up the topic and giving some background and things like this. So this is just to remind you to pay attention to those pages, even though the quiz moves past them. The second point is that on page 692, we get a discussion of this thing known as the prisoner's dilemma. And so the prisoner's dilemma is a situation where you have two people, player one and player two, and they each have to make a choice. They can either choose to cooperate or defect. And what this means will get explained in the article. The point in lecture is just that I want to understand how the chart works, how to read the chart, because that's not explained in the reading. So the numbers here describe what happens to each of the people based on the choices that they make. The higher the number, the better. So you want to get a 4 more than you want a 3. You want a 3 more than you want a 1. You want a 1 more than you want a 0. We have player 1 over here and player 2 over here. These cooperate and defect things, these are the two options available to each player. So player 1 can choose to cooperate or defect, and player 2 can choose to cooperate or defect. Player 1 gets to decide which column we end up in. So these 4 squares are the 4 different results that can happen. Player 1 chooses which column, and player 2 chooses which row. If player 2 cooperates, then we're in the top row. If player 2 defects, then we're in the bottom row. If player 1 cooperates, we're in the left-hand column. If player 1 defects, we're in the right-hand column. And then inside each of the boxes, it shows you what each of the players gets. So if player 2 cooperates and player 1 cooperates, we're up in this box, and they each get 3. So 3, 3, 3 for player 2, 3 for player 1. If player 2 cooperates and player 1 defects, then player 2 gets 0, and player 1 gets 4. One of the reasons I'm explaining in the lecture is that, kind of confusingly, player 1 is on the top and player 2 is on the left, but the little numbers are listed so that first you get player 2's score, and then you get player 1's score for that box. So that's kind of weird. I think it should just be player 1 should be over here, but whatever. The numbers for player 1 and player 2 don't mean anything. It doesn't describe who goes first or anything like this. They're just labels. It could be player A and player B, or player X and player Y, anything like that. But that's just sort of how this box, how this chart is working.